back to Dallas, Dan, with Dan Quinn. Number one, two-parter. Number one, do you think he's still – I know he's interviewing at a bunch of these places. Do you think he's going to be a head coach in the league this year? Is he going to be the head coach at Seattle? Let's say he doesn't get one. Do you anticipate him going back to Dallas? You talked a lot ad nauseum this morning and in the past about the roster, about things that are coming. They're going to have to pay the quarterback. They're going to have to pay CD. They're going to have to pay Micah Parsons. But just looking at the personnel and the breakdown of that defense, is this thing too predictable? Do they need to change on defense there? Do they bring, Dan Quinn back? And, when they lost Van Der Esch and you're playing with those two undersized inside linebackers and trying to stop a team like we saw Arizona do it to them right early in the year over in Arizona and just run downhill at those guys. We saw what Green Bay did to them. So is Dan going to be a head coach? And if he does come back, and I also wonder about the personnel decisions. Does that fall on Mike? Does that fall on Dan? Did they go to Steven? Did they go to Jerry and say, hey, look, we need some inside line, and they just didn't address it?
Yeah, Coach, great to hear from you, man, and great questions. I think Dan Quinn gets a job, yes. I think, obviously that game was poor, but you could sit there and point to, well, at least run game wise, we weren't set up to defend it with humans. I would push back on how do you mess up so many different motions and the lack of communication on your back end. And that wasn't the only game that it got exposed in. Buffalo, obviously, San Francisco, obviously. But I do think that, depending on what happens with Coach Belichick and if Harbaugh goes to the NFL or not, like some team is going to sit there and go, hey, because of the impact that he's had on Dallas, he's going to get a head coaching job. In the world that he doesn't, I would imagine he goes back to Dallas. Coach, my answer, and I would love for your perspective on it, is this. I think Dallas absolutely – Coach, you can't play defense in the NFL right now at a high level if you don't have a good spine. 10 years ago, you could get away with not having great off-ball inside linebackers. You can't anymore. We're cyclical. Teams are figuring it out. We'll put big bodies on the field and we'll pound the football at you. And if you don't have real linebackers, you're going to struggle. Watch San Francisco this next weekend. Watch Baltimore play this next weekend. So I think they got to get back to
Roquan and Patrick Queen.
Unbelievable. I think they got to get back to having two real linebackers, and I think they got to beef up the interior of their defense. But fundamentally and starting point for me is this. I think they got to get to a defense that isn't solely dependent on we're good when. They're good when they get takeaways.
When we're ahead.
Or we're good when we get a lead. I look at it, Baltimore. I look at it with San Francisco, but with Houston. Those defenses suffocate you. They're not dependent on taking the ball away. They are dependent on shutting down the run, tackling well in space, getting off the field on third down. That's suffocating because as an offense, when you play against a team that's dependent on takeaways, well, if you focus on that and emphasize it and we make it a very clear message, and if we make that the number one key to the game, we got a chance. And I think Dallas and Dan Quinn got to get to a point where they're not just dependent on the takeaways.
To your point there, Packers win the toss, take the ball. We need to have a lead against this team.
Yeah,
that is how this needs to go. That's how we need to attack this entire Dallas Cowboys team. Hopefully Big Mike McCarthy realizes that, and I think he does. He's a little emotional today, obviously. I talked to the boys with Jerry. He's a little raw right now. Hey, he wants to spend some time with his family while Dan Orlovsky's trying to ship me out of town. So that's what he's saying. But you're right. I think we all kind of seen what was exposed by the Dallas Cowboys in the biggest moment. I don't know how they changed that, though. I don't know. Mm-hmm. We actually talked to somebody yesterday that said maybe the complex is too nice.
Yeah.
Who was that? Too cushy.
JJ, wasn't it?
Yeah. JJ Watt said their facility is the nicest thing I've ever been. It's like a spaceship. You say, maybe it's too nice. Maybe people get a little bit too comfortable down there. So in those massive moments, it's they tighten up because it's all of a sudden it matters. But they have all the skill. They have the ability. They have the resources. And they have an 82-year-old owner.
Yep.
Who decided, I'm not dealing with all the bullshit of rebuilding with a new coach. We're going to stick with this. We're going to do it. I'm excited to see what they become. Now, with that being said, Tone has a question for you, Dano.
Yeah, Dano, not us. Not us. No one here. Okay, but there's some people on the internet who are saying all the jobs that you're saying that you could see that they move on, that you want the OC for those jobs. Now, you didn't list Pittsburgh in one of those jobs where you said people should move on. And Tomlin said today that they're going to go outside and they're going to hire a new offensive coordinator. and that Kenny Pickett is going to be quarterback one, or as of right now, he is quarterback one. You don't want that OC job because of Kenny, or what's the situation there? And where do you think they should go outside potentially?
Yeah, I am not marketing myself for any OC job. If I ever got a call for it and did get a call, I would obviously take the interview. But
once again, not marketing myself.
No, you heard him, Sirianni.
Once again, not marketing myself, but wife from Philly. Didn't know. There's some other places maybe, but if somebody wants to call, I'm not begging for these jobs.
No.
But I would certainly listen. Who would I be?
I'll pick up.
Not to listen. We understand, Dan. Teeth look fantastic.
Can I answer the question?
Yeah. Well, you did. You did answer the question two different ways, though. But it's beautifully done. It's beautifully done.
I think here's where I am, Tone. Like, if you look at the final 8 teams right now, 6 of them are from the Coach Harbaugh and John Harbaugh called it the McShanahan tree, the McVay or Shanahan tree. I'm a big believer in that offense. I think that offense always gives you a chance to play well, both in balance and at the quarterback spot. So if I was Pittsburgh, I think Mike Sullivan and Eddie Faulkner did a really good job of giving them an identity and solidifying something. But I would be entertaining trying to find a coach from that world, the Clint Kubiak, a Brian Greasy, somebody from that tree that I know knows that offense and can call plays. And I'd say this about Kenny. I would be pretty adamant that we needed to bring in competition for that spot and high-end competition. If Kenny beats him out, then we're in a good place. But with Coach Tomlin, I don't think you can go into next year thinking just Kenny Pickett.
Okay, well, Kenny Pickett has, a lot to prove because he's seen Mason Rudolph and what's possible with the weapons that they have on that team. Well, the offense, it's another offense, though, for Kenny. For them to try to learn. I appreciate that they're going to try to figure it out outside. Last time they did this, Todd Haley?
Yes.
And that had great success.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Shane Waldron would be another name that I would throw in there from Seattle. He's really good, loves using tight ends. Obviously, Pittsburgh has a couple good ones. That would be another one I would entertain.
Darnell Washington, Pat Fryer.